Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is David. I'm facilitating today. Hope everybody's faring well wherever you are and breathing easy with the smoke if you're in the Bay Area right now. I want to welcome David Lewis. Thank you for being with us today. I'll say a few words and then turn it over to you, David. So David Lewis is a graduate of the Spirit Rock Meditation Center Advanced Practitioners Program. And he has been a part of the Gay Buddhist Fellowship for a long time. Shares his Dharma also with the Mission Dharma and also the Insight Upper Market Sanghas. And he also leads a weekly drop-in meditation class for seniors on Zoom. And it looks like he added a email address on the chat if you're interested in getting on a list for one of the groups. So welcome, David. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to pass it on to you and take it away.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David, for facilitating and keeping this group going on Zoom for all this time. That's a great service to the Sangha and a big job. And thank you also to Jerry and Jeff that help organize the speakers and board of directors. I don't think we get reminded enough that this Sangha is here because of its volunteers. And that's what keeps the show going. So I'm very grateful to all of you. This morning is a bit of an anniversary for me with GBF. I last spoke here. I've joined the meetings a few times since then, but I last spoke here on March 1st, which was almost exactly 6 months ago. And it was also the last meeting we held in person on Bartlett Street. So who knew at that time? I remember at that meeting on March 1st that I came into the Sangha and somebody gave me a big hug, which I really welcomed. And then I immediately had the thought, I wonder if we should be doing this hugging thing. As it turns out, we shouldn't have been. So the following week was supposed to be the Sangha meeting, the annual meeting where we acknowledge volunteers, board members, and talk about the life of the Sangha and how it runs. And it got canceled. And 2 weeks later, roughly 2 weeks after March 1st, we went into shelter in place. A lot of things got canceled. So because of that, I've been kind of reflecting on the past 6 months. For me, it's been a really rich time for practice, for Dharma practice. I live alone, I'm retired. So my life was already pretty quiet, but it became even more quiet. And that may be true for several of you. More quiet time, more spaciousness, less distractions, but also more suffering, more experience of the unreliability of life and the painful reactivity, the results when we run up against that unreliability. That's all part of practice. I've been noticing in these 6 months how often I don't want things to be this way. Noticing that I want things to be different. Noticing the frightening realization that I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm not even sure what's happening now half the time. Can't remember what day of the week it is. You're lucky I remembered to show up this morning. So those are, of course, the toxins of desire, aversion, and delusion that get in the way of our happiness and peace of mind. So in other words, I'm experiencing the Four Noble Truths. I have been experiencing the Four Noble Truths in real time, not as a list, not as a concept, but in my day-to-day, minute-to-minute life. Yes, life is unreliable and therefore often unsatisfactory. First Noble Truth. Our lives are unreliable and therefore unsatisfactory. When we're unhappy, it's generally because we want things to be other than they are, or because we can't control our experience. One of my teachers, Guy Armstrong, says, suffering is only the friction between what is and what is wanted. I love that definition of dukkha. It's not my favorite. I'll get to that in a minute. Suffering is only the friction between what is and what is wanted. So the world has given us a lot to work with in 2020. We've had so many catastrophes that when I started working on this talk, I had to actually write them down because I can't grok them all at the same time in my head. In any other times, any one of them would dominate the headline for months. But we have so many. A worldwide pandemic, political instability and uncertainty, toxic systemic racism and injustice, a rocky economy that benefits the rich and hurts the poor. And in just the past 2 weeks, an environmental disaster in California on a scale never seen before. And now the shooting has started. In Kenosha and in Portland, not just police shooting people, which we've been well aware of, but demonstrators shooting each other. It's sobering. And it's stressful. It's another popular definition of dukkha. It's stress. Stressful. We don't know what the future holds. And not a day goes by that I don't want things to be other than they are. So there's a lot of dukkha. There's a Lojong saying from the Tibetan tradition that goes, let every obstacle be the path of practice. 2020 is a rich opportunity for dharma practice. If only because there are so many obstacles. But awareness does not discriminate. Another thing that I've noticed is when I sit in meditation, and I sit at least once a day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and ground myself in reality, ground myself in just the 6 senses of seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, hearing, and simple cognizing, more often than not, there's no problem. I find I'm okay. I have a bunch of health issues. Most of them arising from living with AIDS for over 30 years, but now it's the normal stuff of aging, being a senior citizen. My body is aging and rebelling. My mind is failing me. My friends and relations are dying. But just in this moment, in our sit this morning, sitting here with you, just in this moment, I'm okay. I've never been so grateful for this practice that allows me to take a break from trying to figure it all out and fix things, including myself, and simply abide in stillness. I have this sense that this is what I've been practicing for nearly 50 years. I really get it on a level that I didn't get so profoundly before my confinement. Kate Johnson invites us to take the attitude that there is nothing in your experience that you need to control or fix, and you'll be available to experience the perfection that is always there. The truth that everything you need to awaken is with you right now. Everything you need to awaken is with you right now. And awakening isn't some far-off goal of enlightenment that may or may not happen after 50 years of practice. Awakening happens in the here and now, in this very moment. Simply can be a very brief moment of waking up and seeing things as they are before we slide back into delusion again. I suspect that many of you had a moment of awakening during your meditation this morning, but you might not have been aware of it because you didn't know to label it that way. Moment of awakening is simply the absence of greed, aversion, and delusion. The letting go of wanting things to be other than they are. If you had a moment of peace where everything was just okay the way it was in your meditation, you had a moment of awakening. But this doesn't mean that we don't take action in the world. Dharma practice, particularly meditation, is sometimes criticized by those who don't understand it as narcissistic navel-gazing. It's anything but. It's about getting the ego out of the way so that we can be responsive rather than reactive to the world. As the Japanese samurai knew, meditation makes us more effective warriors. The Zen poet Gary Snyder says, meditation is not just a rest or a retreat from the turmoil of the stream or the impurity of the world. It is a way of being the stream so that one can be home in both the white water and the eddies. I didn't read that very well, so I'll read it again. Meditation is not just a rest or retreat from the turmoil of the stream or the impurity of the world. It is a way of being the stream so that one can just be at home in both the white water and the eddies. The idea of purification in Buddhism is not only about purification of the heart and mind. It's also about purification of society, creating a just and inclusive world based on intentions of goodwill, renunciation, and compassionate non-harm. But creating a better world is challenging unless we start with our own hearts and minds. Think globally, act locally. These are, of course, the elements of wise intention, which is the second step on the Noble Eightfold Path. Metta, renunciation, and non-harm make up wise intention. Cultivating metta is a condition for letting go, or renunciation. Letting go of ill will, letting go of wanting to change others, letting go of the causes of suffering. And letting go of ill will is a condition for compassion and the practice of non-harm. Ahimsa is the Sanskrit word for non-harm, for non-violence. Ahimsa. It was the guiding principle of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King's social activism. Just like to bring ahimsa into the world in these days of riots and conflict, discord. It's the guiding principle of nonviolent social activism. It's how Buddhists change the world. If we truly believe, as the Buddha taught, that there is always the possibility of freedom from suffering, then when we encounter dukkha in the world, we should see the potential for freedom from suffering and therefore joy. And if you define dukkha as unreliability, as one of my favorite teachers and translators does, dukkha, the First Noble Truth, is unreliability, then freedom from suffering, from unreliability, is the simple acceptance of it. That unsettling sensation of sand shifting under our feet is like this. Freedom is always available, no matter what the circumstances. I don't think we can hold this belief on the behalf of others if we have not experienced it intimately in our own lives. Clinging is the second noble truth. Letting go or acceptance is the third. Every day, especially when I read the news, I find myself wishing that things are other than they are. And every day when I sit in meditation, I find freedom from that suffering. That's how my last 6 months have been going. The tension between getting caught up and letting go. When I let go, I accept it's like this. Then I try to make my response to the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune one of wisdom rather than reactivity. As we say, it's a practice. It's the real world, real-time practice of the Four Noble Truths. Never more pertinent than now. As I said, acceptance of the way things are doesn't mean that we passively accept injustice or racism. It means that we recognize that they are the systemic toxins in our society. It's the difference between complaining it's not supposed to be this way and acknowledging this is the way it is. And then taking appropriate action to plant the seeds of change. Thinking it's not supposed to be this way often leads to feelings of helplessness and powerlessness. Acknowledging that this is the way it is empowers us to act. During my last pandemic, the AIDS epidemic, I saw many of my friends and loved ones withdraw from life with a sense of helplessness and powerlessness. Others took to the streets or the airwaves to protest the injustice of the government response. I was a member of ACT UP for a number of years. Actually, it's in the realm of possibility that I'm the last remaining active member of ACT UP, because I still sit on a committee in that capacity. Still sit on a state board as an ACT UP rep. I don't know anybody else still active. But back then, even amongst the activists, maybe especially amongst the activists, there was a great deal of burnout and despair. Change wasn't happening fast enough. And many of us were not taking very good care of ourselves. We were in a hurry to make things happen. If we want to be effective warriors, we have to take care of ourselves and each other. I often feel vulnerable nowadays. Not just vulnerable to coronavirus because I'm at risk, but vulnerable being a senior, vulnerable being a member of this unstable society. Feeling vulnerable for me usually triggers fear or sadness. I've lost many loved ones, and now not only are my body and my mind failing me, but the world at large feels like it's falling apart too. But lately, this vulnerable feeling is accompanied by a profound sense of gratitude. Things might be falling apart, but just in this moment, nothing is wrong. I'm healthy enough. I have a roof over my head and enough to eat. I have enough resources to not only take care of myself, but to share with others. Those who have less. I can't leave home much. I don't leave home much. But I can still make a difference in the world. There's things I can do. I'm grateful for those blessings. Gratitude is an underutilized practice for these difficult times. It is sometimes referred to as the fifth Brahma Vihara. The other Brahma Viharas, of course, are metta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Gratitude is sometimes called the fifth Brahma Vihara. I recommend it and the related practices of gratitude and generosity. They are not only skillful Dharma practices, but they're both causes for joy. And we could all use some more joy in our lives these days. I've shared this quote from Jeff Foster with you before, but now it seems more appropriate than ever. It's a bit over the top, but it speaks to me. So please indulge me once again. You will lose everything. Your money, your power, your fame, your success, perhaps even your memories. Your looks will go. Loved ones will die. Your body will fall apart. Everything that seems permanent is impermanent and will be smashed. Experience will gradually, or not so gradually, strip away everything that it can strip away. Waking up means facing this reality with open eyes and no longer turning away. But right now, we stand on sacred and holy ground, for that which will be lost has not yet been lost. And realizing this is the key to unspeakable joy. Whoever and whatever is in your life right now has not yet been taken away from you. This may sound trivial, obvious, like nothing, but really it is the key to everything. The why and the how and the wherefore of existence. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude. loss has already transfigured your life into an altar. So thank you for your kind attention. And I've got a question for David, I guess. Do we have the easy capacity to do small groups or dyads?
Yes, I can make that happen if you would like.
And while you're setting that up, what I'm suggesting for a discussion topic is simply the question, what are you grateful for this morning? For what are you grateful? And then we'll come back together as a group.
Okay, here we go.
So as people are checking back in, does anyone have a comment or something to share?
Mark, I see your hand up, and I'll pass it back over to David to continue facilitating.
So, David, thank you so much for your wonderful talk. It reminds me of all the times I've heard you in the past, and have a tremendous gratitude for your wisdom and your teaching. So, thank you. The reason I kind of raised my hand is that, gratitude is a cornerstone for me. It's something that when I'm in my state, I can sit down and take some breaths and move into gratitude, and it can center me and all of that. And I just want to say that at the same time, there's a part of it that I feel guilty. I don't know if that's the right word. It's sort of like I sit in my comfort and my ease and my home and my all the lovely things that I have. I'm able to keep myself. I have a home. I can feed myself and so forth. It's sort of like sitting in my comfort while the world burns around me. I can't imagine what it would be like to not be able to feed my children, for example, or where I'm going to be, and so forth. So while I'm sitting here in a state of gratitude, there is that piece about, my own good fortune, and sort of that sense I feel around, well, should I be paying more attention to, or let me not lose sight of, all those who are the tremendous amount of suffering that's going on in this country right now, around the world, in this country specifically. So that's my comment. But if you can respond to that, be great. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. And I'm glad you brought up the guilt thing, because I think that's not uncommon. And the way I've been meeting it lately is to remind myself, because that comes up for me. I think I feel a little bit bad that people are suffering and I'm doing okay right now. And remind myself that that's been true every damn day of my life. That somewhere in the world there's a pandemic. Somewhere in the world there's war, there's hunger, there's environmental disasters. Every day of my life and yours, there's been suffering in the world. And that doesn't mean that we should be stressed out nonstop. We have to find room for gratitude. We have to find room for generosity, which rises out of gratitude, our ability to help out. So I think that's a particularly Western thing, I understand, for people that spent time in Eastern countries, that we're a little bit more prone to guilt. So I would bring a little doubt to that. At least that's what I do in my own practice. Don't stifle the gratitude, and don't stifle joy, which is one of the wonderful things about gratitude practice and generosity, is that they both lead to joy. Anybody experience a moment of joy this morning just talking about what you're grateful for? Yes, I did. Any other thoughts or comments?
Hi, this is Michael, and I experienced great joy sharing, but I even experienced greater joy hearing the gratitude that the two small breakup groupies shared this morning. So deep bows, and thank you for your sweet talk. It was very moving.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Experiencing joy, gratitude, and joy for other people's joy, as you just described, that is a third Brahma Vihara of sympathetic joy, finding happiness in somebody else's joy. That's one of the Brahma Viharas. It's a beautiful practice.
Hey, David, it's Tom Bruein.
Oh, hi, Tom. Didn't see you there.
Good to see you.
I got that quote I read at the end. I got from you.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of the things that I and others are grateful for seem to be the other side of the coin of a pain point or something of suffering or whatever. So, I think we're constantly looking at, well, there's this happening, but, it's shining a light on this other thing that I had overlooked until all of this started to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Beautifully put. So sometimes we have to remind ourselves to be grateful. So I think we're maybe out of time, David. Yes?
Yeah. I want to be mindful of time. Thank you, David, very much for joining us and for your talk and for everyone's participation today. We can make a moment to, if there's any announcements from people in the community, and then we'll say a few words about Dana and then do a dedication of merit, and also let people know that we keep the Zoom room open for a bit if people want to hang out and visit. So, Richard, I saw your hand up.
Yes, I just want to remind people that GBF is offering a day-long retreat October 10th from 10 to 4. J.D. Doyle will be our teacher. The subject is community, joy, and kindness. There's no charge to attend, but Donna for the teacher is always welcome. I believe it's on our website, and we'll be sending out periodic reminders just to let people know to mark the calendar if that's something of interest.
Any other announcements? Jack?
Hi. The GBF newsletter, the fall 2020 edition, is on the website now, and this week we've sent out about 300 paper copies, 2/3 or so to incarcerated people. So look for it. And this is one of the expenses that everyone's Dana supports for GBF. So look for it on the website.
Thank you, Jack, for your facilitation, for getting that out, and for all the other volunteers to help with the mailings. It's good. It takes a lot of hands to make that happen, so thank you. So just acknowledging all the different people who keep the work happening every week. Thank you also. And thank you to those, Grisha and Jerry, for posting the information in the chat around next week. Eve Decker is going to be speaking, and encourage everyone to support the work by offering Dana, sharing your resources that supports our teachers and the expenses of the Sangha, including the newsletter, still partial rent for the San Francisco Buddhist Center, as their expenses continue. And that's kind of our physical home. And the link to offer Dana is on in the chat, or you could also visit the website at gatebuddhist.org. Also want to share, if you want to stay connected, there's a Google group where announcements are made regularly. A lot of you are probably on it already, but if not, you can join. The link is also on our website for that. And then on Wednesday night, there's a Wednesday night sit and group talk. That's, someone has to remind me, I believe it's 7 to 8:30, but someone should correct me.
7:30 to 9.
Thank you. Okay, good. And we could just turn our minds towards dedicating merit that was accumulated today by our practice. So any blessings and merit that have been accumulated today by this practice of us coming together we dedicate to the benefit of all beings near and far. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free of sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all beings never be separated from the true bliss, which is free from all suffering. And may all beings live in the great equanimity, which is free from all attachment and aversion. And believe in the equality of all. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Good to see you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Yeah. I miss everyone.
Thank you, David.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.